Well, it's the news many suspected but hoped would not happen. The lockdown in Greater Sydney is set to be extended for another week, with schools moving to remote learning as New South Wales battles to control its COVID outbreak. The Premier Gladys Berejiklian is expected to announce current restrictions will stay in place now until midnight next Friday, July the 16th. And the ABC understands schools in the lockdown areas will go to online learning for 4 days next week when Term 3 kicks off.
The state recorded 18 new cases yesterday, including more at Summit Aged Care at Baulkham Hills. New South Wales Health has also apologised for an error in arranging for 163 Year 12 students at an exclusive boarding school to be given Pfizer vaccinations after a request from the school. Lots to cover this morning, so let's go straight to Lara Hyams in Sydney. Good morning to you, Lara. Well, it's looking like there's not going to be an end to the lockdown, at least for another week.
Good morning, Lisa. Well, it seems it's going to be the lockdown that we had to have. The proposed lockdown expected to be announced by Premier Gladys Berejiklian at 11 o'clock today. And we believe that that lockdown is going to be extended for another week. So July the 16th up until midnight. The current restrictions that are in place for Greater Sydney will continue, likewise for regional New South Wales. We do understand, though, as Term 3 recommences, or as it commences, Greater Sydney will be moving to online learning, while regional New South Wales will be undertaking that face-to-face learning. Now, it seems that New South Wales Health aren't happy with the numbers. 18 cases were recorded yesterday. 16 of them are known to be linked to existing COVID cases, so 2 of them under investigation. Now, one of the other criteria that New South Wales Health has been looking at is the time of individuals who were tested positive were infectious and whether or not they were in the community at the time of that infection period. 11 of those individuals were actually in isolation during their infectious period. 5 of them were in isolation for part of the time. The remainder were still out there in the community. Testing rates had dropped, though, 32,000 compared with 58,000 the day previous. And we do know that there had been 20,000 vaccinations administered by New South Wales Health. And perhaps some more troubling news for the Summit Aged Care facility located in Baulkham Hills in Sydney. Another worker tested positive for COVID-19. So that brings the total number in relation to that particular outbreak to 10. Of that, 6 of them are residents and 4 have been healthcare workers.
And Lara, we've had so much debate about the vaccines, who should get it, when they should get it, what age. So to learn yesterday that 163 students at St Joseph's College had received Pfizer vaccines seemed a little odd.
Well, this seems to be a mix-up involving New South Wales Health. What we believe had happened is that the school, St Joseph's, which is a prestigious school on Sydney's North Shore, had actually approached the department to inquire about vaccination for some of its boarders. They say that they have got an Indigenous population, which we understand is about 4%. Now, Indigenous individuals are able to get the vaccine. That is part of the announcement, part of the rollout. Anyone who's Indigenous, aged between 16 and 49, is entitled to that, as they're more susceptible to contracting the virus. But it seems that the mix-up has been the New South Wales Health, who has administered the vaccination to most of the Year 12 cohort, about 163 students. They were the ones that conceded the error yesterday and said that the administration and the blame does lie with them.
And the fallout continues for the NRL players caught up in that COVID breach.
Well, it really culminated yesterday when the Dragons had said that they had let the contract of Paul Vaughan to be completely torn up. This was in relation to that illegal party that he hosted last Saturday night for himself and 12 teammates. It was actually a member of the community that alerted police to the gathering, and when police arrived, they found that Paul had been hosting the event with 12 of his teammates. We understand too that when the NRL Integrity Unit were tasked with investigating the incident, that several members had actually fled when police arrived, and that they had withheld information from the Integrity Unit, hampering their investigation. Now, the NRL said that they've only torn up the contract of Vaughan because this was in relation to a number of breaches. It wasn't this isolated event that led to the termination of him. The NRL Integrity Unit has also dished out $305,000 worth of fines to that group of 13, and that doesn't include the fines administered by New South Wales Police. The NRL say that they've been disappointed by the move, and they say that the rest of the NRL players in the competition are upholding their protocols.
Big news day. Lara, thanks for being across it. In other news, business leaders will today meet with those in charge of the COVID-19 vaccine rollout to work out how they can help speed it up. The CEOs of some of Australia's largest banks, supermarkets and airlines will meet with Treasurer Josh Frydenberg and Lieutenant General John Fruin to discuss options, including workplace vaccinations similar to those used for the annual flu jab.
Formula One and Moto GP officials are reorganising their racing calendars this morning and weighing alternative options after the Victorian government confirmed the cancellation of the two events due to the continuing effects of the pandemic. Victoria blamed the decision on the slow vaccine rollout and caps on international arrivals. Tourism industry groups have raised concerns about the financial impact of the cancellation amid fears those same issues could now threaten next year's race as well as the future of the Australian Open. The WA Police Commissioner has issued an emergency declaration barring a bulk carrier off Perth's coast from entering WA after one of its crew members tested positive for COVID. A crew member returned the results early this week and was flown to Perth, where he's now in a stable condition in hospital. WA Police say there have been no other reports of any illness on board. Israel has agreed to send around 700,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine that are almost set to expire to South Korea in exchange for receiving the same amount back later in the year. South Korea has distributed its existing COVID-19 vaccine stockpiles and is struggling to obtain more doses with supply tightening, particularly in Asia. Israel has fully vaccinated around 55% of its population.